what do we have to do today, right? So we have to get these frogs in these different locations. And these frogs represent any element, any HTML element that we want to control where it's located. So looking at the first row, do you think we could do this with before Flexbox? Do you think we could do this with the tools we learned up to yesterday? What do you think, Maureen? Maureen, are you there? What do you think? Like, could without Flexbox, could we accomplish this? Okay. Can you guys hear me? All right. Yeah. ZO2. What do you think?
Yeah, for row one, I think we
Yeah,
could.
I'm picturing just some spans with some frogs. I think that'd be kind of pretty easy. And number two, what do you think? Could we accomplish?
Yeah, you'd just put margins in, wouldn't you?
Yeah, we would put some margins. This one we could also just do a margin, probably. So a lot of these simple ones were pretty good, but where Flexbox really shines is when you start getting realistic. Um, where Flexbox is awesome everywhere, but where we're going to practice it a lot today is building nav bars. So, well, that's not a great example, but maybe Wikipedia. So, like, how would we build this nav bar, right? Using the tools we had before, it would start to get pretty complex, honestly. So Flexbox is going to allow us to control where elements are very easily. Yeah. So let me start writing this down. So we have Flexbox, a set of CSS properties to control the layout of really any elements. Yeah, I don't really have more to say on that than just diving into the code and using it. Any questions on the overview of what we're trying to accomplish, or what Flexbox allows us to do? Yeah, it's really just built into CSS, and it's an awesome way to control layout of elements. So where things go. So with that being said, I want to do the first few of these, maybe more than the first few of these, with you guys together. Because honestly, today, if you guys get this done quickly, I'd love to introduce the project so you have one more day of working on it. Because, yeah, it's a lot for sure. So that's kind of my goal, that we can get through this in a reasonable amount of time, and then I can introduce your real project that'll be due Monday. Okay, so let's try to build this together. So here, I can just do a box to represent Chrome, or our nav bar we're going to build. And then I want to copy over the frogs. I just want to copy one at a time, I think. Yeah. So we need 3 frogs. Make them bigger. So this is our first objective, right? This is what we want to build. Yeah, let's get started doing that. First off, how can I just want to get, am I running this code already? Yeah, I hope so. There we go. So how can I get a frog onto my screen? I don't care where it is. I don't care anything. I just want to see a frog on my screen. Mohammed?
You can press the Windows button and as well as the full stop.
Yep. I got a frog. Should I just have it float like that? It'll work actually, but what's better? What do we need to do to this frog? Oh, Mohammed, sorry.
Okay. Come again, please.
Oh, so we should probably wrap the frog in some kind of tag, a div, a p tag, anything. Doesn't really matter. So that's one frog. How do I get the next two, Semsi?
I would just copy and paste the div.
I like that.
Yeah.
Now I want to make this frog bigger. How can I do that, Semsi? I want this frog to be matched down below.
I think I would first set a parent element so that I can control them better.
Yeah, but thinking too far ahead for where I want to be right now. So one objective at a time. I just very simply just want to increase the size of these frogs.
Okay, so I would give them classes and
Okay.
then target them through those classes. So you can say first frog here.
Well, if I say first frog, won't I need a second frog class and a third frog class? So how about just frog?
Just frog.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to call these all, we're going to attach the class of frog to all of our frogs, which is nice. But now, how do we style it? Semsi.
You can use in style CSS, or maybe better yet, you can create an external CSS file.
Sure, let's do that. Well, let's do, what did we do yesterday? And then I want to show the external style sheet. Yeah. But how did we do it yesterday? Yeah, so we did a style tag, and then how did we target?
Yeah, you can say dot frog braces, and you can say font size and set it to maybe 20 pixels.
Yeah. Let's go a little bigger. Oh, bigger. Okay, very nice. This was yesterday, right? I don't want to do yesterday. I want to show you the way that's going to be more standard with external style sheets. So we create a new file called style.css. And then in our head, we use link, and we can scroll down to IntelliSense link CSS, and it will pretty much do what we need to link this. So basically, Chrome is going to load the HTML. It's going to see this link tag, and then from the server, it's going to request to download the style sheet. Now the cool thing is, oh, my bad. Now the cool thing is, we can write our styles here in a separate sheet. So I'll just rewrite what Semsi told me. Font size 40 pixels, right? For our big frogs. So this is equivalent. It's just nicer because as our style grows larger and larger, it's a lot to have our styles in that style tag. Yeah, so that's external style sheets. Okay, so now we have these frogs, but what do we notice about these frogs? So we actually didn't talk about this yesterday, but it's an important concept, right? So every element is either block or inline. And what do you think a div is? What do you think a div is?
Block.
Yeah, and why?
Because you can nest a lot of things in it.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't think so.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It is. So sorry. It'll take up the entire space in its own.
Yeah.
So like it's not going to be
takes up the entire
side by
line.
side, right?
That is accurate. Takes up the entire line. Well, and that implies the other thing. It's like an auto line break. So that's why these frogs are not stacked up against each other, because they're block elements. And then what's a span What's an example of a span element? Or I'm so stupid. What's an example of an inline element? And don't say span. Redo.
Anchor tag or image tag would be an example.
Yeah, I think both of those are image. Yep. Sorry. So inline, we have image. I'm not positive, but I think that's probably right. What else did you say? A tag?
Anchor, yeah.
Yeah. Anything else we can think about? I mean, really the biggest one that comes to mind for my mind is span. So then the question is, what would happen? What would the frogs look like knowing this, that every element is block or inline, and block basically is like pressing enter on your keyboard. So the new line. And inline is not do that. It doesn't have like a auto pressing enter, taking up the whole line. So if I change these to span, what we see on the screen, Sadiq.
The frogs will align in a single line.
Yeah, all our frogs in a single line. When we use Flexbox, it's actually going to override this default behavior of our elements. So we don't really have to worry about that too much. This is just kind of a side trip, which is an important concept. And I realized we didn't hit it yesterday. So that's a little bit of a sidebar. Back to building our froggies using Flexbox. The weird thing about, well, it opens the class. Does anyone have a suggestion of how to approach getting these frogs to look like this?
We would change it to some sort of inline block or inline like display. If we're using Flex, it would be using display and change it to Flex.
We're not going to have to worry about inline or block. That was a detour, that whole little mini explanation. So we're not going to need any of that. What would be our strategy for getting these frogs to match using Flexbox?
Don't you have to like write display flex or something like that?
We do, but where and to who? So these are the elements we want to control.
Into the style sheet, I think, in the frog.
So here's the weird thing about Flex. Or any other suggestions before I kind of give the answer?
We need to create a parent div. We need to wrap all those little frogs into a parent div, and then we can target the parent div.
Yeah, so that's the weird thing about Flexbox. You have to manipulate basically the parent element to control its children. So when you want to manipulate some elements, you actually have to do most of the work in the parent, which is weird. It's kind of weird, but that's how Flexbox is. So here, we should actually create a div to wrap these children that we want to control. And then how do we target this div? I want the background of that div to be blue, like here. How can I do that? How can I get that parent div's background to be blue?
It would be better if we put a class as well for that div.
So in my app, I'm imagining that there's only going to be one of these divs. Should I still use a class?
Then we can use ID.
Yeah. And this isn't a huge deal at all. But yeah, we can use ID. What's a good name for this?
Parent, I guess.
Parent's not bad. I think I might go with navbar though, because that's what we're building. Or even navbar container. Navbar's fine. Parent's also not bad. Okay, but now that I named it navbar, how can I target it, Kimberly, to give it a blue background?
Hashtag #, whatever.
Wait, what's the new one we learned?
I don't even know what that one was.
Ethropics. What's the word?
What is a cool name?
It was a really cool name.
It's an Octothorpe.
Octothorpe. We have to all call it an octothorpe from now on. Octothorpe. That's crazy.
I'm old, so to me, it's a pound sign.
Not anymore. It's an octothorpe for the whole boot camp. All right. So octothorpe and then navbar.
Navbar.
And then?
Color. Background color.
Yep.
Background color.
Close enough. This is weird, though. I just told you guys that divs take up the whole line. So what is this little space? What is that? Anyone know what's going on there?
Default styling provided by the browser.
Yeah, so Chrome thinks it's smart, right? And is giving us some default styling that we don't want. So here's a special selector, the wildcard or selecting all. It probably has a more technical name that I should know. But it selects all elements. And then here we're just going to reset margin to be 0 because we don't want that default styling from Chrome. Okay, we're making good progress. So now we want to use Flexbox to control these frogs. So how can I do it from this parent container? Calypso?
My brain didn't hear the question.
Okay, no
Sorry.
I've been there. We're just trying to get the frogs to match down below. So what's the next step?
So like line up.
Yeah.
I would use like what is it called? Is it something align and then do flex start?
Okay, but before we do that,
Oh.
There's another step we need to use Flexbox, which is
Yeah, I think it's display, I want to say, and then flex. Yeah.
To tell CSS we are going to use Flexbox. I don't know why it's necessary, but it is. So it's kind of like some homework.
Yeah.
So we're saying we're going to go ahead and use Flexbox. And now Flexbox has some default styling.
It automatically does the
which
flex
for
start.
our purposes is exactly what we want. So we got lucky on this first one. So we're good now, but let me pause there. What questions do you have on Flexbox? What we've done so far? Yeah. Cool. Okay. So what do you guys have to do next? We need these.
I do have a question.
Sure.
So in real life, wouldn't you just put your things in your document in the order they need to go in rather than using like the reversing and all that stuff?
Yeah, reverse is never something I've used in actual production.
Okay,
Yep.
so it's just there just cause, basically.
Probably 85% of CSS is unused. Like there's some properties that are just silly.
Yeah, I was like, why?
They have a use case to someone somewhere. But speaking of Flexbox reverse, I've never used that. I would be shocked if anyone has. Yeah, it's a little silly, that one, in my opinion. But then again, I'm sure there's a use case, right? We're not covering that today. We're really covering the basics that'll get you 95% of where you need to be, trying to hit them hard and deep. And then you have to get in the habit of looking at the docs in Google and Stack Overflow to do some weird thing you're trying to build at that time. Yeah, so we're going deep in our technologies and learning, and not wide, is kind of my philosophy on a lot of this. And reverse would be going wide with Flexbox, in my opinion. Okay, that was a lot of talking. So I want these frogs in the center. Any ideas there, Daniel? How can I get these frogs in the center?
Do you want the same navbar or a different one?
No, we're gonna. Everything can stay the same. Yeah, we'll reuse everything.
I think it's gonna be either align items center or justify content center. I can't remember which one of those two.
Okay, so yeah, there's more. So it's going to be justify content, but then the question is, what is justify content, right? So we need to talk about that. So justify content controls the layout of the primary axis. And by default, the primary axis is which direction? Who really got a handle of the pre-work? Yeah.
The
Lin-
X.
sorry, Lin J beat you by just a second. Lin J?
So justify is going to be horizontal while align is horizontal.
Horizontal
vertical.
by default, yeah. The x-axis, yep.
Unless you use the reverse at the end, then it switches.
Yeah. We'll talk about flex direction when that comes up. Yep. So justify content controls the x-axis for now. And we told it to put the items in the center. And that's all nice and good. All right. I do notice one thing, though. There's kind of some space between these, right? A little more than ours. And there's a few ways we can do this. I'm not going to be strict about which you want to do, although I do like one of them. How can we get a little bit of space between those frogs? Farhan?
Is it gap?
Yeah, so what I do like, and it kind of goes against what I was saying about the super fundamentals of Flexbox only. Gap is a little, I don't know, I wouldn't call it fancy, but I do like it. So we can control the gap of our children elements with gap. So we can, do whatever we want. Yeah.
Why would we not use the justify content space in between?
Because that would be more than possibly gap. So if we did justify content, or let me remove the gap, if we did space between, that would be very dramatically different. And maybe that's what you want. It's just a different use case. Yeah. But if we want them mostly in the center, but a little bit of breathing room, we do what we did. Yep.
You said there's another way. Would it be like using a break instead, or?
No, I think just using, well, does anyone have an idea? How else can we do it? Using the tools we learned yesterday.
Is it margin?
Yeah, we just simply just do a margin. Although things get a little weird because we hit this hard last cohort, and I was still confused by this discussion. Sometimes the margins combine, and sometimes they don't. Honestly, it gets really complicated, and I always forget. What is it doing in this case? Is it combining or not? So in this case, I think it's not combining. So it's cumulative. So they're adding. So now it's like the margin is actually 20 between them, which maybe you want, maybe you don't want, right? Okay. Not super critical to the fundamentals of Flexbox, though. So let's do this next objective. We want the frogs at the end. And I'll put them close together. We don't care about the margin anymore. So how can I get the froggies at the end? Zubida?
We are going to align them to the right.
So
justify content.
Yeah, we're going to use justify content because we're still dealing with the primary axis. So we're going to do. So to see all the options, we can do control spacebar. I use this all the time. It basically, this will trigger the IntelliSense of VS Code, and you can see all the options available. And then, yeah, like it'll be hard to remember flex end, right? But hopefully you'll remember to press control spacebar to see the options, and then flex end will sound appropriate. Yeah. So that's that. Let's do the next one. Or let me pause there. Any questions on? I mean, it's the same thing. Justify content flex end, but puts the things in the end. Yeah. All right. We're slow start and we're ramping up, right? I want to skip 4 for a second, and I think go to 5. And then we'll come back to 4. So I think we might have already seen this one, but how can we get this one? Did you do Pimpa? How can we get the frogs to look like this from this?
Justify content banner.
Justify content. Let's see all our options and see if one, what is the expression? Hits your fancy? Touches your fancy? Whatever that is. Which one looks good here?
Space between.
Yeah, we can try. So not quite. Let's try space around, right?
Oh.
And this is literally what I do. I never remember the difference. I just put one and then the other until it looks like I want. Okay, that hits it, right? So now things get a little more complicated. So we're not building a navbar. Maybe we're building a sidebar, right? And we want them aligned like this using Flexbox. How do we get that? There's a few things that are going to have to change. I'll open into the class because it's a little tricky.
We can use flex direction.
Yeah, so now we have a new property, flex directions, which changes the primary axis. So by default, remember it's a row or horizontal. And we want to now say, make this a column instead. Yeah.
So in the assignment, I think they called it flex wrap though, and not direction. I don't remember seeing
No, wrap
flex
is
direction.
something else. Yeah. Wrap is when we have too many items. How do we control what happens? I can actually show you guys flex wrap right now. So let me, oh, we have a hot mic from someone. Yeah. Yeah, let me show you flex wrap right now. So what happens when we have too many items, right? By default, it just expands the screen, which maybe we want, maybe probably don't want, honestly. So in our parent container, we can say flex wrap and set it to wrap to tell it to, well, go to the next line, right? So that's flex wrap. Okay, what else? Well, this one I'll leave for you guys to do on your own. And now I want to get into the real fun. We're gonna try to build out actual sites. So I'm gonna open up the mobile view because it'll be a little simpler for us. And then we're gonna take a look at, why isn't this working? Okay. Let's try to build Google's mobile view, right? Using Flexbox. So picture each of these as just frogs. So basically we want 3 on each side, right? So it would look something like this if we were trying to emulate Google. how do we do this, right? So let me put our 6 frogs on the screen. We'll start there. But now things get kind of weird. Any ideas how we can get this layout using Flexbox?
You need to make another class.
Another class where?
For the second set of frogs that you want to move over. So in the style sheet.
Okay. So I would make like a frog 2 class is the idea?
Yeah. Yeah. To like have them as like 2 separate elements.
Okay. And then what would we do? What would the properties be on when we did that on that class? So if we like had frog 2, what would we accomplish with that?
Then I think you can change it so that you can justify those to the flex end versus them all being at the beginning.
Possibly, but there's another approach I'm going to try to do with you guys. Any other strategy? How to accomplish this?
Maybe you can separate into 2 groups,
yes.
into 2 divs.
Yes. So that's what we're going to do, right? We're going to have 2, oops. Well, can I change the styling of this? Background. Yeah. So we're going to make does that work? Yeah. So we're going to make 2 different containers for these 2 different sets of frogs. So I'm going to surround my first 3 with a div, and maybe I'll just call it left container. And the other one I'll call right container. And now the nav bar. So the way Flexbox works, it cares about its direct children. So who of the navbar div, who's its direct children now? Linjay, who's the direct children of the navbar div right now?
So you have 2 children, so you got your left and your right.
Yeah, exactly right. So the Flexbox for this, all this properties really has nothing to do with this. So right now, let me make a left container. Yeah, let me make a left container and a right container so you can see it visually by changing the background color. So yeah, let me turn that to you guys. So just so we can visually see what's going on a little better, I want the left container to have a red background. How can I get that left container to have a red background? Ellery?
Okay, so you'll target the left container. Sorry, the left container.
Yep.
And you will do background color. Sorry, what color did you want? Yeah, great.
That's fine. And then we'll do the same thing for the right container. Just, and this isn't anything but us kind of seeing what's going on. I don't know, purple. Okay, so we see that this is interesting. We have display flex, and our 2 child containers are right at the flex start, which is default. But we really want them to kind of take up all the space, right? So how do we tell those containers to take up all the available space in Flexbox?
So we can target the left container and use display flex property there, and the right container.
What property?
Display flex.
Display text?
Yeah, display flex.
Oh yeah. So, okay. So let me change the question because So these, in this red container right now, in the left container, the frogs are aligned in a column. I want them to be aligned in a row. How can I do that using Flexbox? Sadiq just answered. I can make this a flex container. So now we have a flex container inside a flex container. And this is where the power really starts to shine or to be useful. So this is going to be a pattern you see all the time. Flex containers within flex containers within flex containers. And I'm going to do the same thing to get the purple container. So now this is looking a little bit closer to what I want. But now the thing is, I want the purple container and the red container to grow to fit all the available space within that Flexbox. So how can I tell them that, Victor? How can I tell them to take up all the space possible? Victor?
Is it justify content space around?
No. Nope. David, you have a guess? How can we tell it to grow to fit all the or grow to take up all the space you can, basically?
Is it Flex 1? I'm not sure.
It is Flex 1, but that's a shorthand for a lot of things. So we're just going to say Flex Grow. So this is the property to tell a child container grow. Okay, by default, it just takes up the space it needs and not anymore. So the 3 frogs, it fits them nicely in that space and it doesn't need any more. But we want to say, go ahead and take up more space than that. So that's Flex Grow 1. So now look how the left container is taking up all the available free space. But we also want the purple container to take up all the available free space. So now they're kind of fighting to take up that free space and they end up taking up the same amount of space. And now we can kill, well, we'll do that at the end, I guess. So how are we doing on our progress here?
Question.
Does this look like Google yet or no?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why would you put it into the child ones instead of into the parent one? Would it be different or no?
Yeah, if we put it into the parent one,
like the Flex Grow, why?
I mean, it wouldn't. The nav bar is already taking up all the available space because it's a div and a flex box. So Flex Grow saying the nav bar is. Let me put a border so maybe it's clear. I don't know if that's clear enough. Let me.
Yeah.
So this is the nav bar container. It's already taking up all of the space. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so now, does this look good or do we have more work to do?
More work.
What do we have to do?
It looks like there are 2 ends.
Yeah.
As opposed to like one is at one end and the other's like in the middle.
Yeah, we need them both at the respective ends, just like Google right here. Yep. So how do we do that? Well, this side looks good, right? How do we fix this side?
So for the right container,
yeah,
it would be, I believe, justify content and then flex end.
Yeah, awesome. And then we can kill the colors and you can see that. Oh, does I still have a background color? Why are these frogs? Oh, it was just highlighted. So now we've, successfully done the layout for Google. There's a little bit of a gap here, right? Which we could easily do. But that's good enough. A lot of complexity though. And nesting flex boxes is going to be a huge pattern. So what questions do you have on that? We have a total of 3 flex boxes to accomplish this. Okay, let's practice one more, and then I will cut you loose. So who else should we do? Reddit, that looks pretty similar to what we just did. Amazon, that's similar to what we just did. See, once you learn this pattern once, it's all the same, right? I don't know, Nike. That's a little bit different. Not much, but a little. Should we do this one or look for a different one? We can do this one, right? So let's kill. Well, should we keep our? Yeah, let's actually.
I have a question.
Sure. Oh, that's it. We just did it. But go ahead. What's your question? Sorry, was there a question?
Like, we have display flex on the navigation bar, but it actually seems not to be working since we've displayed it still on these containers on the left and the right.
Well, so this Flexbox is doing something different than these Flexboxes. They all have their own role.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So actually, what is the question?
Can we see what happens if you remove the Flexbox from the nav bar?
Yeah, but let's talk about what we predict will happen first. Yeah, do you have a prediction there or want to talk it through?
My guess is it would return to being displayed side by side, like the first one, but I'm not sure.
I don't know. Let's see. I think, okay, because divs are block by default, I think it's going to go down here, but I'm not sure. Let's see. Yeah. So because it's a block element, it now goes down here. Okay, so let's make a Nike.html and a Nike.css. And starting from scratch, I'm going to make you guys build, picture these as frogs. I'm going to make you build this. All right, so starting from scratch. So we can really practice all the skills we used. What's some steps we have to do? And remember, these are just frogs. Yeah.
Max, can I tell you a little shortcut?
For?
To get the boilerplate.
Boilerplate for what?
For HTML.
Yeah.
If you press the exclamation point and the tab, Emmet will activate itself and come up.
Yeah, very nice. So you have those two different options, typing HTML or the exclamation. Yep. What is the 3 exclamation? Nothing. Okay. I don't know. You can use whichever. All good. Okay, that was a great start by Kim to get us towards our objective. What else to get this nav bar, this Nike nav bar? Who are we at? David? Maybe? David?
Yeah, you need to add, you need to link your external CSS.
That's a good point. And instead of style, what did it call it? Nike? Yeah. What else?
Is it still me?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to create a div and call it, give it an ID of navbar container.
Okay. Very nice. What comes next? Medi.
And then we need the logo, no? The Nike logo.
You need what?
The Nike logo.
Oh no, yeah, yes, but tomorrow we'll actually do that. That'll be fun. But for right now, let's just use frogs in place of everything. So how do we get one frog to show up on the screen? I'll just do a div and then the shortcut.
Cool.
And then Medi, how many frogs are we gonna need? Where is it? Where's our frog? Oh, there we go. Medi, how many frogs are we gonna need to emulate this navbar?
Five frogs.
Yeah.
So for me.
And Medi, I want these frogs bigger. How can I get them bigger?
So we make we do for each frog a class.
Yeah, but we already did that last time. What's a different way I could do this?
we do it in navbar container.
Yeah, let's target the navbar container. And just say what?
Font size?
Yeah. I mean, this wouldn't probably work for if we were doing more, but it's fine for right now. Cool.
Okay.
Okay. Vanessa, what's some more work we have to do to get this layout to match this?
Then you need to add display flags.
Yeah, very nice. So that'll make it the frogs in a row.
Yeah.
Very nice. And Monica, what's another step we need to do? This is probably the hardest step. But how do we get one frog to the left and all the others to the right?
One frog. So do we want to create another set of div tags and wrap one of the frogs in?
Exactly. Yeah. So we want one box here and another box here.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we do that?
So wrap the first frog in a set of div tags?
Yes. Yep.
And then just do the same for the other four.
What did I do? Did I screw up? 1, 2. What did I do?
Or I guess the first frog is fine, but then wrap the other four.
No, we should do this one too.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we're making nested flex boxes now. Very nice. Okay. What's some more work I need to do? Izzy, any guesses?
You would need to, in the CSS, hash. Oh no, you need to create an ID for both divs.
Okay.
And you. Yeah.
And now that they're named.
And then in the CSS, you can add the hash left container and hash right container.
Left container. Wow, my spelling today. Okay. What do we want to do with these containers?
You want to do display flex.
Okay.
And flex grow.
Very nice. So this now will take up all the available space. Cool. All right, what's some more work we need to do? Zubida? Are you there? I can't hear you, and your camera's all dark.
Sorry, I had muted.
Oh.
We need to target the right container. Hash right container. Then display flex.
Yeah. And flex grow
Then
on.
flex direction.
Oh.
Row.
Flex direction. No, we can use the default,
Sorry.
right? Because
Okay.
we want row for both. Or, yeah, row. Okay, we're doing, I think there's one more step, right? So what's that final step, Ketzerin?
Hi, so I think you might have to do the justify content flag in on the right container.
Yeah.
If you want to be met with the Nike.
Yeah. And there we go. That's pretty much it. Maybe just some margin or blah, blah, blah. But that's basically the layout. Yeah, I think that's it for today. That's everything I wanted to cover. Any final questions before breakout room?
I had a question about